What is up, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of WagMe TV. We're thrilled to be back here for episode 5. Feels like we just started yesterday, but you know how it goes. We'll be back every single week. As always, I'm joined by the absolute fellas, the All-American, Ev Smith.
We doing?
The Doctor, Doc Mata, and the NFT Lord himself, Garcia.
What is up?
How we doing, boys? Happy Wednesday.
Happy hump day, baby.
Boys.
Can't
hump day.
complain. First quarter of the year has really flown by, huh?
Yeah, Q1. Bottoms up to Q1, huh?
Cheers to that.
Seriously.
Bring on spring.
Hey.
I feel like every time spring comes around from winter, I get a little bit sick. So I feel like I can hear it in my voice a little bit. It's coming.
Not
It's
so
around the
fast,
corner
Mata. Not so fast. We need you. We need you.
here. Seriously.
You part of the squad.
All right. So today we are bullish on BTC. Straight up, straight out. No questions asked. Mata, give us the thesis.
Gosh, I mean, there has been a ton of relentless buying pressure. It could be for numerous reasons, and I think we'll run through a lot of it, right? I think one of the pieces that we always look at is we were talking about this just a second ago. So we're not necessarily decoupled from those major tech stocks, the S&P, the Nasdaq, pieces like that. That's been going up as well. Risk on has been booming. So crypto kind of follows suit in that sense. There have been some, from a geopolitical perspective, there have been rumors of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. There was a Russian pullback from Kiev, hopefully a little bit of de-escalation, but who knows, right? That's just a mystery situation, and we'll take that day by day and we'll take it in stride. But it seems to be good news up front currently, just from a general perspective outside of the crypto world. But anyone else, any thoughts there before we dive into the crypto spot?
Yeah, I mean, macro is always going to macro. You know how it goes. Like we talked about the last episode, the Fed coming out and giving at least a decent, kind of making the market feel that it's not totally like up in the air, giving some sort of roadmap in a way. I think had investors feeling a little bit better, but at the same time, you never really know what's coming. I mean, there's probably going to be some aggressive hiking coming up in May, June, possibly in the fall. So we're going to have to keep our eye on that. But for the time being, it seems like there is a little bit of a risk on move here. And yeah, I'm bullish on Bitcoin right now.
Bullish on Bitcoin. It seems like a lot of people are. You've been hearing a lot of really good, positive news. BlackRock coming out. Michael Saylor's always buying, so that's not necessarily anything new. Hedge funds talking about potentially, moving into the Bitcoin space and the crypto space. So I think the biggest question is FOMO on the way, right? I think we got some pretty big resistance levels that we got to smash through first, and then it can be off to the races. But I think one of the biggest news pieces has been Do Kwon from one of our favorite L1s,
our boy
Terra
DK.
Yeah.
Go get him, DK.
He announced just the other day, and I can share a little piece here really quickly, and then we'll pop back to us. But he announced just the other day that they're going to be buying up a bunch of Bitcoin to back their UST stablecoin here moving forward, which is a little bit different. I know we had talked as a group here about them being algorithmically backed. So for the listeners, a little bit of background. Algorithmically backed stablecoins are really, they don't have any assets or collateral for backing them. You can have fiat-backed stake coins, crypto-backed stable coins, etc. So these algo-backed stable coins, they follow an algorithm for controlling essentially the supply of that stablecoin. So with a rise in demand, new stablecoins will be created to reduce the price to the normal level. And in the event of really considerably low coin trading, coins on the market are pushed up for reducing circulating supply. So it's just a way of leveling that out so that they can peg against something that's stable. And that's how Luna was operating up until this point. And we chatted about that a couple of weeks back, but it's interesting. So Do Kwon, they bought their first Bitcoin purchase was $135 million. That was on March 21st. And yes, you heard that correctly, 135 million. So
man's fucking aped. Man's aped in hard.
Yeah, he aped. And I mean, 135 million, that's a lot, but you think about it, and his plan is really to increase to $3 billion in reserves for Bitcoin so that they can use that as backing for UST. And that is a ton of buying pressure. He's been saying he's going to buy every day for, say, the next 3 months or so. The ultimate goal is to get somewhere around 10 billion. He wants to be basically the largest holder of Bitcoin other than Satoshi himself, which we heard from him specifically, which we can link that little interview as well in the description below, that essentially he's betting on Bitcoin and saying, basically UST, their stable coin, is not going to fail unless the entire crypto space fails. So really cool, interesting topic. You could be super on board with it, or you could think it's a little bit sketchy, moving from that algorithmic back to something crypto backed, something that's maybe a little bit more volatile in nature. Either way, tons and tons of buying pressure coming in, swooping out a lot of these resistance points. And I think it could be a lot of those FOMO times for some of these major institutions that are still trying to break through and trying to get in. If they start to see that price go crazy, it could be kind of wild here for a little bit. So,
and quick question on that. You know, when you think about that algorithm that keeps it pegged to the $1 US, it doesn't change fundamentally with them buying $3 billion worth of Bitcoin, right? Like this is something that it's almost they're backing themselves so that, you know, they're, I think we mentioned, like too big to fail. So it's not the changing of the algorithm necessarily.
Yeah, no, you absolutely nailed it. So they're not going to be quote unquote a crypto backed stablecoin, right? They're still going to have the algorithm back there. But if anything were to go terribly wrong, at the worst case, you'd have the Bitcoin reserve there as well. So it's something I'm still learning a little bit more about. I don't understand it completely. So I think we'll continuously, especially if they keep buying for the next 3 months, I'm sure we're going to have an update on it probably every week. But yeah, it's something that I'm still trying to figure out a little bit deeper. But I mean, in the end, right, the reason they're specifically interested in Bitcoin is because they believe it's the strongest digital reserve asset, right? Really, UST is going to be, or they hope it to be, that first internet native currency that implements the Bitcoin standard as part of its monetary policy. So super, super interesting stuff. And that's a good question that we'll just have to keep hashing out as we run through this. How's that algorithm piece going to work? How's the crypto backing going to work, et cetera?
Yeah.
Has anyone seen if El Salvador has gotten in on the recent action of like big buys? Because they usually are involved in this. I just haven't actually looked at that.
Yeah, let's see.
El Salvador bought the fucking top, bro.
Yeah, he tried to. Yeah, I don't know. That was not good.
I mean, they've been layering in, so like it's not that bad.
Haven't
but
they
like
just been buying a bunch?
Yeah. But they bought at like 60 or something.
Yeah, they did.
I think that was like the first time. The first time they bought was like way at the top. I was like, oh god.
Hopefully they have a long term. Exactly. Hopefully they have a
your
long
country's livelihood with Satoshi.
Yeah.
And so it looks like they were trying to create a government bond that was Bitcoin backed. And I mean, just reading some of the top results on Google here, it looks like it's not going too well. So,
oh no.
Yeah, so maybe we'll have to do a little segment on that.
Yeah. Well, hey, then another piece of interesting news is there's the Bitcoin conference coming up in Miami. I don't know if you all are familiar with that. Apparently, there's going to be some massive news that's on par with the El Salvador piece. So is it another country that's going to be buying a ton? I don't know what would be that big, right? I couldn't really tell you, but super interesting, which is just more and more bullish news coming out about Bitcoin.
What are the dates on that, Mata?
It's a good question.
Because that could be a good date or a good, week range to, because more speculation could build up towards the conference. And if something actually pretty good gets announced that either affirms expectations or beats expectations, it actually could be pretty big. Like if institutions see it as a marker for like, okay, this is actually legit, let's get some serious, funding towards this, that could actually change things pretty drastically.
Yeah,
definitely
real.
Could be a
6 to the
positive
9th,
catalyst.
So end of next week.
End of next week.
Definitely
Okay.
Could be a positive catalyst, I think. That's interesting. Well, so you guys have pointed out some really interesting things on the demand side for Bitcoin, but I did want to point out something interesting I saw recently. Our boy Will Clementi, shout out to him.
Shout out Will.
Always giving us some good insights on Twitter. I saw this. So illiquid supply shock takes another leg up. If you can see this, I mean, the last year, this is essentially the supply or the ratio from the illiquid supply of Bitcoin to the liquid supply of Bitcoin. And this thing has absolutely just been going so high up, right?
Wow.
Basically signaling that the majority of like Bitcoin is moving more and more into wallets that are not going to sell, pretty much, right?
Wow.
So I mean, if you look at this chart, you multiply it by the fact that the demand things that you guys signaled, and you kind of get but the potential for a perfect storm, obviously, right? So it'll be interesting to kind of keep an eye on that as we move forward here, but both on the
especially
demand
when
and
you have
supply
like these,
side.
Yeah, no, as you have these massive buys from people like Do Kwon, people like Michael Saylor, that's just shrinking the amount of supply that's ready to go on exchanges, right? So it's interesting because they're not selling. So yeah, keep an eye on it, everybody. Could be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think the risk is definitely to the upside here. I think for Bitcoin, at least in the short term. Garcia, what were you saying?
Yeah, I was gonna say like to your point about the liquid supply. I saw this like actually it's like almost a month ago, but the amount of Bitcoin that's like come off exchanges and stayed with long-term holders is so like the amount available on exchanges has gone down like crazy in the last like what is that, like 6-7 months. And the amount of people that are holding Bitcoin long-term is going up. So like they classify long-term as more than 155 days, which isn't that long-term, but still, there's some people trading Bitcoin every day back and forth. But it's just interesting to see those, it seems like there is like data to back the theory that it's transitioning to long-term holders.
Yeah, I like the statement that kind of in the short term, it looks bullish here. I think this is one of those times when it's fun, at least in my perspective, right? Not being super involved. It's fun to look into like some of the more Joe Schmo TA, if you will, right? The support levels, the resistance levels, things like that. I don't know if Sia, if you want to take us through kind of your thoughts and we can chat through what that looks like.
Yeah, we can go back and forth on this a little bit, but I have some fib levels up here. I'm actually gonna delete this trend line. So what happened recently, like in terms of like obviously we had the volume to back this breakout, but what like happened and why, and then it ended up going kind of crazy is because we broke out of a falling wedge, which is super bullish. So this formation that I have drawn up here, and then we broke above at the same time that we broke the falling wedge. We broke through a fib level and then went straight to another and broke it. And now we're trying to stay on top of there. But that's like that volume is what supported the crazy, like that's a crazy breakout for this high of a market cap coin. Like for Bitcoin to do that, like that's crazy. And like in half a week, or a week, that's crazy.
Right. Wait, so where's that fib that we just flipped and we're looking for that be support now, right?
Yeah, that's 46,445.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that right there.
And then the one thing that not worries me short term, but like why I think we'll probably either bounce here or come down somewhere in here is that the RSI is so high. So we're pretty overbought right now. If you look at the other times that we've been, you know, up this high, but like, let me get my, like right here. And then no, it's right here. So it's like basically every time we get that overbought, you're going to have some sort of pullback. Like this is overbought, this is overbought, this is overbought. And it kind of translate with, it doesn't let me draw over it, but it translates with this, you know, these peaks right at the overbought point. So it'll probably correct a little bit. Like I think overall we're you know, we're super bullish, but I'm saying like immediate short term, you know, we'll probably pull back just a little bit. So just DCA, not financial advice, but you never want to ape in when we're up, you know, whatever it is, 7%, whatever this is.
And what is this blue line right above? Is that the 200 or what's that moving average?
Yeah,
that's looking at there.
That's the 200-day. So we like bounced right under it.
Yeah.
Oh like shit. So that's gonna be another resistance.
Yeah.
So never buy into resistance, I think, is the biggest thing there. Right.
Yeah.
It's like,
unless you're fucking Do Kwon.
Unless you're Do Kwon.
Do Kwon.
He's got like 3 billion liquid, so he's got something to play with.
I mean, that's the type of stuff, guys, that yeah, this TA is like important and all that, but like if you have such heavy buying pressure from institutions, from people like Sailor, from people like Do Kwon, that breaks all these rules.
Yeah,
which is so crazy.
No, absolutely. That's the thing. Like, that's why like in NFTs we talked about it, in crypto we've talked about it, but supply shock like negates all this stuff, like negates, you know, any like chart analysis, anything. Like if there's no Bitcoin on the market or less than what the buying pressure is coming in, I mean, it's gonna do, you know, this type of stuff. But
yeah,
it really
so
depends.
are we looking then, if I'm correct, kind of our resistance line here is what would that be, like 48, just above 48 ish K somewhere?
Yeah, it's like 48 too. That's like where the 200-day is about.
So kind of the question is, are we going to get rejected off of that? And what does that rejection look like? And if we break it, if we hold that, we're looking pretty decent here moving forward, it looks like. But
yeah, so we've like in the last week, we've done almost like 17%, give or take, which is pretty crazy. Like, I mean, we had these two candles that were ish like that big, you know, nothing crazy.
Yeah.
17. So like, but this is a healthier, like this was one candle. I mean, I think we talked about this on an episode, but this is one candle. Like this is way healthier. This is like multiple big buys coming in, like multiple, you know, over $1 million buys coming in, and, you know, some even bigger buys. But
yeah. And I mean, we were talking about it where it's like, hey, once Bitcoin looks healthy, then these altcoins can start to run. And we've already seen that, right? Solana is going crazy today, for instance. So it's just like everything's looking a little bit healthier. We just got to start to get above some of these resistance levels. And I think it looks really nice for us.
Yeah. And for some of those, like past the kind of next level, next category altcoins, like the more like low cap altcoins, usually that starts to like trickle down. Like a lot of this Bitcoin stuff starts to trickle down into those, like once it's a confirmed like U-turn, like there's no like question. Okay, like it's locked in, we're above, you know, the two, whatever it is, whether we're above the 200-day or we say, okay, we stood on top of the new all-time high or something like that, like it's game over for altcoins. They're gonna just go ballistic. So like that's kind of what like people are dollar cost averaging into kind of those lower caps, waiting for kind of that, hoping for that. But
right. Wow. Damn, I hope we break that 200.
I know. You can see
and if we bounce, we're looking for support at what is that, 46?
I feel like it'll be at the top of those. I feel like it'd be a resistance or a support at the top of those bounces. Or yeah,
basically right
bottom of those.
Yeah, I bet you like we'd probably like, it's never like exact, or it's usually not exact bounce, so like probably somewhere
in that range.
Yeah, somewhere in here.
47 to 45. Yeah.
And that looks reasonable. What would that be? That'd be like let's say we go to the bottom of the range. It's a 4% correction. It might do more than that, but we'll see. It depends how much people want to take. So if it's really transitioning to long-term holders, it depends how many people actually want to like sell their Bitcoin. So like if we look at the volume, something that's interesting here is we haven't had this many straight net buy days like in the last, I don't even know how many days, like in the last half a year, 6 months. So like people aren't, so like people net are not selling their Bitcoin in the last week completely. That's why this looks so healthy too, as opposed to just this, because it's one big buy and then the rest of the people that are selling here. But
and I think you covered it on previous week's episode, but yeah, you're talking about just like the health of the chart. I mean, if you were to go back 2 or 3 weeks to what we were looking at then, I mean, it was a very different sentiment.
Roller coaster.
And like what we were talking about, is there resistance, or if we break through this floor, where do we go next? And I think like you're starting to see like it's consolidating a little better than what we were seeing 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
it's been higher lows, guys.
Yeah,
so I think a big thing too.
Exactly.
Just look for it not to push below that, whatever that last low was, 38 or so.
I guess you mean like for this one, 41.
Yeah.
So I think if we went down there, it's gonna be something, because like it almost always, if it's gonna come down here, a lot of the times, like if you break out of a falling wedge like it did, it'll bounce back off this trend line and then go back, because it kind of like a way the theory is like, okay, it confirms that it belongs above the trend line. That's kind of the chart analysis theory. But so if we go down to that level, it's going to be 41,257 would be the one to stay above. If we go below like 45 ish. So
not if Do Kwon has anything to say about it.
Exactly. That's always the caveat. If we just get crazy volume, I mean, Bitcoin's never, like we just covered, Bitcoin hasn't really seen that volume in the last even year. So we'll see.
Exciting stuff. Love that. Thanks, Sia.
Yes, sir.
And I was just going to say,
on.
Mata, you mentioned that Solana, had a nice little pump today. I think there was some news around that as well, right?
Yeah, Sia, you want to hop into that news on Solana?
Yeah. So what happened with Solana today? As Ev was saying, and if you guys are watching the crypto markets, Solana was, I think, up like 11-12% last time I looked today. And it's mainly because of this news that OpenSea is going to start listing Solana NFTs. And like at first, it doesn't sound like it's like, okay, cool, like there's going to be NFTs listed. But the amount of volume that, I didn't mean to open that up. But the amount of volume like that that NFTs do, like for Ethereum, like that's the most like volume that ETH does, like is in NFTs. Like that's the biggest reason people use ETH right now, at least in the last year or so. That's been like the biggest use case. So think about, basically people have been using Solana just to escape the Ethereum gas fees, but think about it actually having a use case and another way to appreciate value with NFTs. Like I think it's, it's billions of dollars that of transaction volume that OpenSea's brought to Ethereum. So now that's going to come to Solana. So that's why it's essentially, because a lot of people trade Solana NFTs, like hundreds of millions of dollars worth. So to see now it's going to become more accessible. So now it's like the question becomes, what's the multiplier on that multiple hundreds of millions? Does that mean, are they going to be more popular than Ethereum NFTs because of the gas? Like everyone's kind of like, if it's this accessible, we'll see. I mean, but it's going to bring a lot of that's why it popped, is because there's just a whole nother set of buyers coming in for Solana.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, the question is why not? Right. I mean, why wouldn't it? I know back when we first started doing this, I think there was news in November that Solana's total NFT sales reached 500 million. And I remember your reaction, Garcia, you're like, whoa, like that's kind of crazy. And I was in November. So where are we at now? And now we got OpenSea on board. It's like,
they probably reached over 1 billion. And like the biggest barrier for people with Solana NFTs coming from Ethereum is that it has a reputation to be a bunch of rug pulls, because it's not very like the websites are like they have great, like they have good UI, but they're not really backed. Like it's a group of like 4 people running the website. So like there's no recourse. Like people are just openly rugging on the marketplace like 24/7. So you have to vet like crazy. Even though the gas fees are nothing, you're still just throwing your money in the fire if it's a rug. Right. So now if it's going to come to OpenSea, like there's even another level of validity. It's like going from KuCoin to Coinbase, or, you know, you get the extra level of like branding, security, you know, venture backed, as some people would say, even though they're not venture backed yet, but or they are venture backed. Actually, they are venture backed. Correction. But yeah, I think
major hate.
Yeah, I think Solana is you know, we need to see a little bit of a correction, but it seems like it's a good one to DCA into.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of L1 updates today.
and I think you could also see that, you know, when you look at developing something through Ethereum and Solana, they're completely different languages in terms of the developers and coders, and there's a significant switch if you're gonna hire a team that's developing on Ethereum compared to Solana. So you could easily see it where, you know, it still kind of holds the same market cap or amount of NFTs that it sells. But yeah, you're right. Like there's definitely like a bear and a bull case here. And I think that, like, you're right, OpenSea is just going to add more validity, hopefully, to these projects, and hopefully attract better owners and better groups that can, because I would love to pay less gas. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, exactly.
The amount of stuff that we on gas. So
I mean, here's the deal. ETH is the first mover. They are massive, right? And ETH's been extremely strong lately. They're approaching that merge that's supposed to happen in June, with the new chain. And then once /if, right, that starts to go deflationary, that's going to go absolutely wild. So by no means does ETH not have a place in the market, even if Solana goes wild. It'll just be interesting to see how that develops over the next 5, 10, 15 years to see what that turns into. But yeah, completely hear you there. I don't think ETH's going anywhere, guys.
Yeah, I have a question about that. Do you know, like, have you like read anything about developers in terms of like the difficulty and like the differences of developing a dApp on Solana versus ETH? Like, is it easier on Solana? Like, is there an incentive to do one or the other as a developer?
You know, I don't know. I think there's better frameworks with Ethereum. So like working on Solidity is actually a very sought after skill set that I think you can like easily find developer jobs focusing solely on Solidity. So I would say that just because of the community that Ethereum has, and you know, the trust that blockchain brings, like there's a lot of people that have focused on Solidity, and so there's a better developer community. And when you're looking at these frameworks, you know, a lot of times, I don't know if the framework is open source, but maybe some of the libraries that would come with it are. And so you're needing a large, you know, active community to be able to make updates and make patches. So, you know, I would say, you know, not having a ton of experience in it, that it's going to be easier to develop on the Ethereum blockchain. But yeah, I'll have to do a little research into kind of the libraries and frameworks that you can work with on Solana.
Yeah, that's cool.
I know it's still like a very active community, so I'm sure they've got plenty of great tools that you can use to build your projects on there.
No, yeah, it'd definitely be cool to hear, because as Mata says, you got to follow the developers. Always follow the devs.
Right.
All the devs, follow the money.
All I know is that devs need to do something. They need to do it fast.
Speaking of devs, time to talk about Stack.
Yeah.
A little time for a little node update.
Take it away, Zoe.
Take it away.
All right. So I don't know if we have discussed StackOS on this show, but it's a project that I've been following for some time and that, you know, I'm pretty bullish on. essentially they're trying to build the decentralized cloud. So you can imagine like AWS, but decentralized. So for crypto. And so let me just pull up their website really quickly. One of the interesting things with this project is, you in the world of crypto, you run into a lot of people that have no product, but are selling like a vision. And so what stood out to me about this project is that it's fully doxed team, very qualified, and they actually have a product that's being used and it's been worked on for years now. And like, basically people apps are deploying using StackOS as their kind of compute services, similar to what you would do like when you're deploying a application or something or website on AWS. And so you can see here they have like 650 current like actively deployed projects at the moment, which is really great to see. I mean, you can go through some of them here, check out their website and stuff. Very, very exciting stuff. And like this number, when I first, found this project probably in December or so, was only like 300. So basically 2x the amount of projects that they have developed or deployed using their, decentralized cloud in the span of what, like a quarter. So definitely very impressive growth here and really interesting. So just to give you a little bit of kind of context on, where we're at, these guys announced a node program. And so a lot of, we've talked about Strong. I also have an update on them later, but these guys introduced a very interesting node program where it would basically be NFTs that you could mint as the nodes themselves. And these NFTs over time would give you, pretty solid rewards. It is kind of an intricate structure. It's not as simple as Strong or some of these other node projects. And so I can link something down below for, the listeners, if they're curious on learning more about the program. It does take a little bit more effort, but at the same time, a lot of the issues that you run into with a lot of the like OG node programs where the supply just gets way too high and there's not enough demand and the price just crashes. These guys do a good job in their strategy of kind of mitigating for that. So overall, node program was definitely supposed to be a very bullish catalyst, right? After a long wait, they've announced this, months ago and kept delaying it and delaying it and delaying it. They finally launched on Sunday. And this is what happened. Boom. Sunday right here. Where are we? Sunday. Just a massive red candle. And so I was not very happy with the launch. I think most of the community was not. And it wasn't because it was delayed. It wasn't because something was terribly wrong. While they did have some glitches, I think, some of the lottery ticket holders weren't able to, get their stack in time. There were issues that, technical issues that were run into, but I've been in, enough launches to understand that like, that's kind of part of the game. And it's not like a lot of times you can't control that. And I think a lot of the community also understands that like, you're never really going to have like a perfect launch. Perfect launches are almost like impossible to come by. And if you do find a perfect launch, then that's like fucking unicorn, right? What was very disappointing in my eyes was the fact that there was no communication from the team whatsoever. There wasn't really just nothing. Like when you see things going wrong on your launch, the good projects have someone there from the team pretty much either available on voice chat or at least in the Discord or the Telegram, answering questions, telling people what's going on, giving people some sort of like some semblance of like, you're going to be all right. We understand this is like not optimal, but like the dev team is still here. Our team is still working. We hear you and we got you. That's really all anybody wanted. Yeah. Like we're working on fixing it. It has been straight up radio silence from the entire team.
Still to this day?
To this day, that I haven't heard anything official. I haven't heard anything official. He, like, the CEO comes in the Telegram and like answers a few questions, like a little bit here and there, but it's like, it's not easy to find. It's not accessible. And it's not something official coming from the entire StackOS team being like, this is a guide on how to do this, right? This is a guide on how to set up your node and like earn rewards and like join the high APY program and like do these different things, right?
In quick question, Zoe, are you personally putting any computing resources, like your own computer's memory out, or is it something where you're funding them to do that?
I don't know about funding. The way they describe it is like your node NFT basically reserves a space, and then cluster operators are able to use that space in the cloud to then deploy compute resources. So maybe it can be looked at as funding it. I'm not really sure. Well, but that's how they kind of describe it. Is like the node NFT itself opens up a slot in the cloud where the cluster operators are then the ones, you know, deploying the actual like compute resources.
And so it's funny where, you know, it sounds like their funding is probably coming from the initial, you know, selling of stack tokens, but also the minting of these NFTs. And once those have been minted, I mean, I'm sure they're getting kickbacks from like the NFTs changing hands and the fees that come with that. But essentially, you know, they've kind of collected their funding that they need. And so, you know, it doesn't look like the token is fully crashing. Like it, you know, it seems like the team is still there and working. But it's almost like he's just kind of turned a blind eye to like the NFT community that helped fund the project.
Well, here's the thing is like that, I will say, like pulling back up the chart. I mean, look, I've seen disaster launches in my day, and like this is not like that bad, right? So there's still a lot of support behind this project. Yeah, there's still a ton of support behind this project because it is a good project. I mean, you look at so many crypto projects don't have a product, barely have a dev team, teams not doxed, no clients, no nothing, not actually doing anything real world. Like this is an actual like legitimate, like this shit has a use case, right? There's an issue out there and they are literally going and solving it, and they have clients, they have people deploying using their project, right? And so that's why I think that there are a strong group of members within this community that really are bullish on this, and I'm one of them. I just hope that this team learns some critical lessons around the fact that in the crypto world, no matter how good your development skills are or anything like that, the reality is community is a huge piece of the crypto. Like everything in crypto is based around community, right? And so the communication and the marketing cannot just be ignored. It can't just take a back seat, right? So I really do think like this project will be fine in the long run. I think eventually they'll put out a guide on like what the fuck to do, because no one, like, you know, the information right now is very all over the place. You know, you have your mods saying one thing, you have people in the community trying to put out guides and stuff to help others in the community, but there's nothing official coming from like the actual Stack team, right? And so, I mean, I've been told, I'm in their Discord, I've been asking questions, I've been told that they're working on it. You know, there's people in a bunch of different time zones working on this project, and it's like apparently hard to sync everybody up. But I've been told that they are working on it, and they're working on fixes. They're working on, you know, having better communication. But it would just be nice to see, you know.
It's a nice to have. It's not necessarily a need to have, in the sense that they like not only like you're talking about marketing to the NFT holders, but you know, they've got an entirely different customer group. They actually need to market to the clients that would be using their computing resources and storage for their apps, right? Like this.
I'm just talking marketing in general, like even like on Twitter, on Facebook, like I don't know, other avenues of like kind of like customer acquisition, I would say.
Right.
Yeah,
I think the biggest. Oh, go ahead, Sia.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking like the biggest is just like transparency. Like
Right.
what the hell is going on, right? You
Yes.
clearly have a solid community, a lot of people that believe in the project. Just give them a little bit of reassurance, watch that thing pop, and then to Evan's point, you can focus on the marketing to the clients of what this is all going to be. So it's just,
Totally.
I think there's a lot of things going on, and they just had a massive launch. There's a lot going on. They probably don't have a massive team. So, you know, it's just going to take a little bit. But if it's really as good of a project as Soham believes, and as a lot of this community believes, it can definitely rebound, and then they'll hopefully learn from their mistakes in a way, like when you get rug pulled, right? Like just learn from what happened and don't let it happen
Right.
again. But yeah, go ahead, Sia.
Right.
No, I was gonna say before we started recording, so we like broke it down pretty well, saying like there's a lot of things that go into a successful project, but it's rare to find a project that's not over-indexed on one of them. Like this is a project that's over-indexed on the like it's such a good idea and it's such a good fundamental project, but they're like, at least from what I've heard from Zoe and the minimal research I've done, it's a complex system to describe to new potential buyers. You know, it hasn't had as much marketing as people maybe in the community would have liked. And their kind of interaction with the crypto community, it kind of, and so you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it seems like it doesn't seem like they're familiar with the crypto community. Like it seems like they had this great idea, they understand blockchain, but now like this kind of weird, like not weird crypto community, but the crypto community is unique. Like when we get into these discords, you got to like, you know, people expect a certain experience in these discords, and it seems like they're not quite there yet in terms of like fitting into that culture quite yet.
Interesting. Yeah, you guys bring up like all like really, really good points and like things that I haven't necessarily like thought about too. Yeah, these are all phenomenal points. I completely agree with
like,
everything
are you
guys
looking
said.
at it as an NFT community? Because like that's what obviously us three are used to, especially Garcia. Right. It's like constant communication is like a really, really good sign. CEO or et cetera hopping on to do AMAs, to do whatever, really good sign. Right. I know that's why Cardano went pretty crazy for a while. It's like we're doing some stuff. We have all these plans, but like Charles, he was doing AMAs all the time. You know, it's like it's a good look to have that transparency.
It's a different type of business, right? Like it's got, you know, a more of a focus on client facing and securing these deals. And when you look at the problem that they're trying to solve, you know, you can build apps on Ethereum and have your app data stored in the blockchain. You can build apps on Polygon or Solana and have your data stored in the blockchain. You know, this is the same thing, but they're just trying to improve that process or beat them in performance. And so that's an extremely developer intensive challenge to try and take on. And so, you know, I'm sure that they're probably a pretty technical team if they're looking to take this on compared to a community building team that we see with some of these other NFTs that we're in. So you're right, Zoe. Like this is a skill set that I'm sure they're going to have to continue to learn and probably invest in for new team members to come in to be successful in that space. And so I feel like it's probably growing pains at this point.
Right. Right.
It is an incredible idea. Yeah. Like I'm when I read when you sent us the links and the white paper and stuff, like when I read it, I was like, oh my, like if this gets executed on, like the idea is phenomenal. You know, like AWS is is probably the most if not one of the top selling, you know, products in the entire world, you know, in terms of like
runs the internet
revenue. Yeah. I mean, it runs the internet. Like it's the reason you can watch Netflix, it's the reason you can watch your HBO and all your shows. Like it's just, you know, if that actually pans out for Stack in terms of, I guess like what I don't quite understand, and maybe both Soham and Evan can help me understand, where would hosting on, and like I have a general idea, but like not a specific use case in mind, like where would hosting that come into play, like on the blockchain in terms of being better than what's available now?
So the main thing that they talk about, this question has come up a lot in the discussions that they have, like in the Discord and the Telegram. I think it came up in an AMA or something. but basically, like, there are times, like, I mean, we experienced this. We all work at like corporate companies where AWS goes down, right? And when AWS goes down, like, nothing fucking works, right? I don't know if you guys have seen that, but like, I mean, it happened just a couple of months ago, right? Where like if AWS goes down, then all of a sudden Slack isn't working, and this isn't working, that isn't working, like, right? Everything goes down. In this scenario, during that, everything, all that happening with AWS, StackOS and everything running on it was completely fine. It was untouched.
And it's just that decentralized format of like what makes crypto and what makes blockchain so important, right?
Mm-hmm. So the idea is that it's going to be stronger than the blockchain it's hosted on. Is that kind of
what do you mean stronger than the blockchain?
Well, I guess maybe I'm not understanding it quite correctly.
Basically, if some cluster operators end up going down, the rest gets picked up by like others. It's decentralized. There's no one single point of failure, right? In the AWS model, like AWS is the single point of failure, right?
Okay, yeah.
And that's why you have all the nodes that essentially separate all of the work to be done, if you will.
And for people that will come in and talk about, if there's an AWS bull out there, AWS does have a crazy uptime, they have crazy uptime statistics behind them. They're up 99.999 something % of the time. And so I guess how StackOS could differentiate themselves as well is that, AWS is not small business or mid-market business friendly. The fees that you're having to buy into to be able to scale your business globally, as well as invest in large storage capacities, it's extremely expensive. And so you could see where this could be also in that same marketplace competing against AWS, but for certain businesses, it could make more sense just because it's got a different stack associated to it, and maybe nodes that are even closer to geographically where they are.
That's a great point. And I think like the other thing that builds off of that is that it's no code to put in. Like a lot of the teams that like it requires a team to like deploy and migrate to AWS. Like it's a big, like it could take a year to migrate from on-prem to AWS. Like if if StackOS executes on what they're saying, like if you can really, with no code, like no hassle, deploy new applications onto essentially a cloud provider, like that to me, like combined with what Evan is saying is the true, like, cause that leads to like saving actual dollars too.
Right. Right.
And you look at a lot of these, blockchain networks, it's essentially the same thing, but they're requiring these individual users to go and operate these nodes and operate these miners, for proof of work, if it is proof of work. And really what they could do is, if they were having trouble with, somebody who owned 20% of the nodes in that network, and they were constantly going down, they could just migrate this over to StackOS and use their network, their what you would figure enterprise standard, to run their network, and it would be fully decentralized, but you would be able to have some guarantees with StackOS.
Do they have some sort of mechanism? Because what Evan's saying made me think of just like the way that the nodes are distributed. Like, do they have any sort of mechanism that's built in to make sure like one person doesn't end up with like, I don't know, like 90% of the node supply or like 60%?
Yeah, they had like fantastic on the launch question. They did. I think they actually did have basically like they had like whale protection, where like you, first of all, you couldn't like purchase more than X amount at a certain time. You couldn't mint more than a certain amount and then a certain time. Obviously, you're gonna have whales coming in like buying a bunch at once, which did happen. Like the early generation nodes got like scooped up really fast. But there were, at least in what I saw, good mechanisms to assure like decent distribution of the node supply. Also, at the same time, like there's no limit at the moment on how many generations of nodes there could be. right?
Okay.
So actually, this is a good time to actually just show off the application that was launched. So this is for Gen 0 nodes. Obviously, nobody has a Gen 0 node. This is the one that you had to enter the lottery for. Or there was that auction that I was showing you that like the most expensive one went for like 40 grand. Like it is crazy. So this is where you actually go to mint the NFTs, right? And so right now, like it's pegged to the market price of Stack. So this would be about $200, right? And then you can select how many, nodes you want to mint if you wanted to mint NFTs. Right now we're on generation 9, right? And so there's 1,000 nodes per generation, right? So
wow,
currently
so they actually had a good amount of volume. Like there's people minting nodes. Like there's a lot of people minting nodes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's another application, and this is what I'm waiting for. Others have circulated guides on how to set up your node and like pay the APY program and like claim your rewards and like do all those things. They haven't put out any information on any of that yet, right? People are figuring it out on their own on how to like do it. And so there's some guides out there, but I'm waiting for the official, like, this is how you do everything. And then I'll go do it, The only other thing, this was a huge point of contention on the launch, because up until the launch, every single time it was asked, it was always, you have to mint your node in Stack tokens. And the APY program, remember I was telling you about like how you get the higher yield, that you can pay in stables or Stack, right? Either or, right? But for minting, they specifically had said for months that it was only in Stack, right? And so as an investor in Stack, you're like, oh, this will obviously cause buy pressure on the token, because you can only mint Stack if you have, or you can only mint an NFT if you have Stack. When this launched, people came over here and they were like, what the fuck? Like, I can fucking mint an NFT with stables. Like, I didn't need to be holding my Stack this whole time and investing in Stack. Terrible miscommunication, because in reality, what's happening here, it's very deceiving, because you think you're just buying it with USD. In reality, what's happening is if let's say you click USDC and you mint a NFT, that is immediately going to a market buy on Stack. And then that Stack is being used to buy the NFT. So it's very deceiving. You know what I mean? So theoretically, they didn't do anything wrong. Like, it is still causing buy pressure on the Stack token, which is what all the investors want, obviously, right? But they just provided absolutely no guidance of that.
Oh yeah, I'd be heated. I'd be absolutely heated.
That's actually smart,
even though
though.
It was totally fine. Though it was totally fine, like seeing that and seeing USDC, if I was a major strong holder specifically for this, I would be upset.
Yeah, sure. Me too. That's what this is this whole dip right here.
But so if people
whales were, I was watching the order book, obviously, like whales were literally like, oh, I don't fucking need to hold Stack. Why am I exposed? I could just buy this in stables, and just dumping their bags.
Yeah.
And then I was in the Discord trying to figure it out. There was multiple other people. Yeah, there were multiple other people like DMing me. I was DMing them like, what the fuck's going on? Like, and then finally, like a little bit later, it was cleared up. But by that time, like, it's like you gotta, if you're gonna say something, or if you're gonna change something or make it look a little different, to, just having somebody there to just explain and be like, it's all good. It's a market buy. Like, there's still buy pressure on the token. You're still like, you're still technically using Stack. It's just doing an auto market buy. Yeah, that would have been nice.
I was going to say, if they communicated this would have been like ultra bullish, because what it does is like it allows for people without having a Uniswap or, buy Stack, whatever the extra step is. Like, you could just buy with your stables or buy with someone else, and it's still buying Stack effectively. So like, if they would have just told people that, I think actually it would have led to more buy pressure on Stack. If they could have just pegged that as an announcement in their Discord, and people probably would have bought more. But
yeah,
100%.
Exactly. Exactly.
One last little note I feel like on StackOS is I'd love to see just how your $200, and it's kind of funny because you think of like these companies that raise these fundings through NFT sales, and you think of them almost as public companies, or if you're a holder of the NFT, you would want to be able to see in their books a little bit. But I'd love to see how the $200 goes towards putting together a node, because I guess it's a little confusing for me if it's what that $200 is spent on, whether it's, it could be just an AWS fee. It could be, actually, maintenance of a data center or what have you. So I think that's the only part that's a little unclear to me, is that, there's 9,000 NFTs, you're talking about 9 generations of 1,000 NFTs. There's 9,000 nodes that have been put together. But I'd love to see if that's actually 1-to-1 or what the case is on the back end.
Yep. No, it's a good point. I mean, I will do anything for them to have an AMA.
Right.
Literally. I would jump off a fucking building, honestly, if it made them have an AMA. Like,
not literally, but close.
I would do literally anything. I'm not even kidding.
Not life advice.
Not life or financial advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, bro, goddamn. No, all great points, boys. All great points. I think
super interesting. I would love to hear more about that.
We'll keep StackOS definitely on the rotation. I mean, I'm obviously heavily invested, so I got to.
Transparency.
I gotta definitely,
definitely take
see what happens.
Zoe's takes with a grain of salt.
Well, I'm not even I feel like I was, pretty fair. I wasn't even.
No, you were.
People in other, people on other project discords that I've been in might even accuse me of fudding my own bags here. But,
seriously.
Yeah, but we got to be honest. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. If you don't want to play yourself, because then it's just gonna you're just gonna lose more money. So you got to be honest with yourself.
And I think it takes us to much into
the rug of the week.
Axie's the rug.
Just a quick half a Billy.
And so I didn't really dive too deep into this. So I think you probably have a little more context. You want to kind of run through it?
Dude, honestly, I saw it on Twitter and I was like, holy shit, this is like fucking massive. Basically, so from what I understand, it's the bridge. So bridges have been hacked. Multiple bridges have been hacked. Like, bridges are inherently vulnerable because what you do in a bridge, at least a lot of the bridges, is you can picture one blockchain, another blockchain, and the bridge in between. And so let's say you send Ethereum from like Ethereum to Solana. You're not actually, when you send it, you're not actually using the Ethereum that you sent to Solana on Solana when you go out and use it. It gives you another token and it holds the Ethereum, right? And when you go back, then you take your Ethereum that you had put in and you take it back to Ethereum and you use the Ethereum on the Ethereum blockchain, right? Just simple, right? But inherently, people don't realize it. Like when you bridge the token, you get your new token, you think it's the same Ethereum, but it's not. It's another token, right? And so all these funds basically get pooled up here of people that have bridged, right? And that's just what is apparently very vulnerable to hack into. And that's why you've been seeing a lot of these like just fucking massive hacks on bridges.
And I think why they're being targeted is that Ronin network is like barely a month old. Like it launched in like early February, late January. So it's the side chain. So it's a side chain
for Axie, right?
Yeah. So it's supposed to be their like payment network so that they could stop having people pay such crazy gas fees. So they created a side chain and just named it Ronin Network, and they created like an LP for it, all that kind of stuff. But it's like relatively new, so I'm assuming that's probably why people went after it. But the bridge is interesting. Like I guess that does kind of make sense how that'd be the weakest point. But that's an interesting point, Zoe.
Yeah, it's just, you know, you got your
And
two
what was it? It
blockchains.
was almost 200 ETH and another 30 million in USDC or something
No, it
like
was
that. Is that
100.
what you highlighted?
It was 173,000 ETH.
Or yeah, that's what I meant. Almost 200,000 ETH.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
almost 30 million USDC.
And
Yeah,
then
that's absolutely wild.
so 600 million in Ether, and then another nice little chunk of 25 million stable coins.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So almost 200,000 in ETH and almost 30 million in USDC. Is that what we're at there? Something like that.
And then what did they do, Zoe? They shorted the
Yeah.
So
that's
they
Garcia.
shorted so like right when, because like there's a delay, there's probably like a 5 to 10 minute delay before people start realizing it on the blockchain, and before
this was days long, dude. This was days long.
6 days. They said from to the
it was 6
29th.
days. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, so like it didn't come out. It didn't come out for 6 days then, and like them obviously when the news breaks, everyone's just gonna sell, right?
Yeah.
But like he or she or a team immediately shorted, like put like half of their or more than half of what they stole and shorted Ron token, and just fucking just
That's crazy.
It's a high
And
IQ play.
I think what I said was the high IQ play. I think what I saw was the Ronin team said about 5 validators' private keys were hacked, and that's what kind of led to the whole turn down. But I think the moral of the story here is DeFi is still young. It's something that can really, really cause a lot of disruption for us. I think it's extremely important for us here moving forward, but it is still the Wild West out there, folks.
Well,
it's fragile. Be careful. All the above.
You're talking
Ape with caution.
The most popular
with caution,
PvE
exactly.
game. It's the most popular PvE
most
game
popular PvE, yeah. And
dude, yeah, we just had an episode on it.
Yeah.
We just had an episode on it.
Wild West. Be careful.
It's a double-edged sword.
Dude, the offensive awareness though for that person to just short that shit. Oh my god!
I know that's aggressive. I mean, the timing is
so
really
aggressive.
dangerous because like if people were just watching Etherscan and like watching it really really closely and they're like, whoa, this is like I gotta sell my stuff now.
Somebody just shorted 300 million of Ronin.
Yeah. Like if people were like really on it and they were like, what? Like, you know, I can't believe it took 6 days to get out. That's
earn
crazy.
Games, cryptocurrency. Yeah.
That's too bad we were talking about how we were bullish on Axie 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, once again, not investment advice.
Wait, I don't think we actually said that.
No.
We bullish?
No. That was more.
I think we said it sucked.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah,
I think we said it was the start of a awesome category.
Mm-hmm.
The very beginning of it. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, that's not great news.
We'll bounce back. We're early.
Yeah. I don't know if we're ever gonna bounce back.
I think we're pretty much at time now. So listeners, thank you again for coming, for entertaining us, for giving us the light of day. We will be back and better than ever. Same time, same place next week. If you enjoyed what you heard, found anything useful, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And we will see you next week.
Let us know what you think of StackOS. I'd love to hear some comments. If anybody,
any StackOS comments down below. Let's hear it.
And to the Wolves crew, mint your pups. Getting burned here soon.
Daycare is going down under.
All righty, y'all.
Awesome.
Signing off. Wag me.
Peace, brethren.